Welcome back to session number 2 on coaching managers and supervisors. My name once again is Sandy Mojica, and like on the first session, I will be the presenter for the day. Right before we left for our break, we were having some ambient noise issues due to malfunctioning equipment. That is going to continue being the case. So forgive me for the ambient noise. Other than that, we are ready to go. So in this session number 2, the target is going to be conflict resolution. And my goal here, more than anything, is to provide you and give you some practical tools that will help you during this time. Just like before, there are no silver bullets here. I'm not going to give you the holy grail on how to fix conflict issues resolution. That is not going to happen. There are many variations to all this. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to give you some recommendations that when you put them together, you're going to have a good arsenal at your disposal to be able to handle these situations. So that's how this is going to go. So before we go to the next slide and the presentation, just think of a moment in your life, at work, anything. There was a conflict, there was some sort of problem. Just think of how you reacted, what was going on through your mind, was the conflict worth it? The trouble itself? Did it get resolved? Did it remain resolved? Sometimes we fix it, but it doesn't get fixed forever. Take a couple minutes, just think of it. So a conflict, an issue, how do you react to the problem? What was going on your mind? Was the conflict worth the trouble? Did you resolve it, and did it stay resolved? Keep those thoughts in mind. Keep those thoughts in mind as we go into the presentation. So just take a couple minutes and just keep something in mind. Okay, so now that you have something concrete in your mind, let's look at the next slide. How do you handle conflict? The words that come up to your mind, the things that you were thinking about, were they under the mouse, the monster, or me? So again, based on your thoughts, are you the mouse, the monster, or me? Now, when the picture says me, it's not me as a person, it's the person in general that will be potentially the best at it. So a mouse, for example, says, I ignore it, I hide my feelings, I fake the cry, I roll my eyes. Is that going to be good for work? So what do you think? What about the monster when it says, I yell, I hit, I get frustrated, I threaten, I deny? So is that helpful? What about for me? I apologize, I compromise, I take it out, I talk it out, I listen. Now, I don't want to say that there is a right way or a wrong way. There is a more appropriate way. That's the way I wanted you guys to think about it. There's more appropriate way. So there are things that sometimes they're not big enough to make a big deal out of it. So it might be like a tiny little thing. You sort of ignore it. Just don't make a bigger deal than it needs to be. You may address it, but you definitely don't blow it up. If it's not necessary, if it's not worth it, pretty much. So for example, for the monster, if you yell, if you hit someone, or you threaten someone, or you fight with a person, that is really not going to fix anything. There is going to be more issues coming later down the road. So that's not going to be for that specific scenario, the best way to handle it. And for the last one, me, apologize. Well, sure, yeah, you could apologize, but are you meaning that apology, or is it just an automatic reaction that you are just, oh, I'm sorry. If you are one of those people that says, I'm sorry all the time, well, that I'm sorry loses its value. So you have to be mindful of those situations. If you know a person that is always saying, oh, I bumped into you, I'm sorry, or maybe the person didn't do anything. He says, oh, I'm sorry. You cannot be sorry for the actions that someone else took. You can only be really apologetic for something that you caused or that you did. So don't always be saying, oh, I'm sorry for this, I'm sorry for that. Well, you may be sorry that the situation happened, but you may not necessarily be sorry for what happened because you're not the one that caused the problem. So what about listen? For example, you could listen. Listening is fantastic. Now, if you listen and you don't take action, it's as good as nothing. You have to have a plan in mind. If, for example, for the monster, I break things. Well, now you broke something. You didn't get anything fixed. And on top of that, there's something else that needs to get replaced now. So that doesn't help. On the mouse situation, you may say, oh, I roll my eyes. Who is that helping? No one is helping. It's being helped by you rolling your eyes or avoiding the situation or just ignoring it, hiding your feelings. For conflicts, if there are two people that are not getting along for whatever reason, one of the first things is to address it. And in order to address it, you have to listen to one another. You have to definitely not ignore it. You cannot yell at each other. Maybe at the beginning you guys are yelling, and just bring the conversation down and just listen to each other. Talk it out. You have to compromise. Now, don't always compromise to your disadvantage. Just make sure that hopefully it's a win-win situation. That will be the best compromise. But definitely not a compromise that you are going to always be the person that ends up with the short end of the stick. So just make sure that you understand that part. So all of you guys, I see, raise your hands if you fall under the mouse monster or me. There is a little of everyone. Everyone has a little bit of it. I myself may ignore something one day. I may be tired of it the next day. I might talk it out the following day. So you have to be consistent. And that's what we're trying to be here. You need to be consistent with your employees. Because if today someone came in sandals and you didn't say anything, you ignore it. The next day, because the district manager was coming in and you forgot to tell your employees someone else came in sandals, you blew up and sent the person home or wrote up the person. And then the next day you talk about it, oh, remember, you cannot bring sandals, but the person stayed there. Same scenario, 3 different responses. That is not consistent, and that's what brings the problems. So you have to be consistent on that matter of how you're going to deal with conflict. So from here on out, I'm going to go over a little more details as to the objectives of the class. Now, we're going to keep it simple again. I want to give you some practical tools. Once you get into your office, back to your place of work, you're actually going to be able to use it. Nothing crazy, just something that is going to be practical. That you're going to be able to actually find out something about the situation. So the first thing is you need to realize when there's a conflict. You have to be able to recognize conflict. You need to know how to approach it once you are in the conflict. You have to follow up. So for example, sometimes the best conflicts are those that never happen. But is that always the case? A conflict that doesn't happen is not always good. You have it like a volcano. So you're avoiding, you're like the mouse. Avoiding the cat, or the monster in this case. One day the mouse comes out, the monster sees it, everything blows up. On the other hand, if the conflict had come up and you had listened and you had communicated, nothing will have happened. So that's on that time. By the time we finish here, you should be able to recognize warning signs of conflicts. Key portion there, warning signs. Conflicts do not just happen. They take time and they signal when they're coming. You could see a little by little when they're coming. Of course, if you are ignoring everything, you're not going to see anything. But that's the key portion of it, to keep an eye out. Once you're in the midst of a conflict, you need to know what steps to take. And the objective here is that by the time we conclude the training, you will know what to do. Once you're in the problem, you have to fix it. Or at least address it. It may not get fixed right away, but at least figure out what the issue is and try to prevent it from happening in the future if at all possible. Finally, because you have not heard complaining about a previous issue, does that mean that the issue went away? Not necessarily. Maybe the employees figure out, or at least the person that was creating the problem, figure out how to continue causing the problem without you becoming aware of it. So you have to follow up, you have to check, you have to be like a detective. And like I said on the first session, you have to get connected to the grapevine to see what are the rumors that are around. So you have to keep everything. And you have to follow up. That's very key in this process. For the purposes of this presentation, I'm going to be covering 4 specific types of conflicts: work, family, co-workers, employee and employer, and bullying. Now, these are by far, these are definitely not the only 4 types of conflicts, but these 4 do include a significant number of the conflicts that you're going to be facing. Now, as supervisors, as managers, even as a person, as a general person, conflicts are an everyday occurrence. And depending how you handle them will determine how your day goes. So this is, you have them for your personal life. It has nothing to do with work, all the way to work, and they just get intertwined, and it's a significant problem. So we're going to go over these 4. I'm going to break them down. I'm going to give you an idea for each. Just as a quick little summary. For example, for work, family, the work hours and the demands of work versus family time and the family time demands. Simple as that. You have to work a lot. You're not able to make it at work, to your family events. Co-workers, they could have different aspirations. You may want to run the place. Well, you are right now a manager and a supervisor, but you want to run the place. Your co-worker doesn't want to do any of that. So, for example, for employee and employer, is there a future plan? What's the plan that the employer has for you? And for bullying, it applies to anyone. It could be anyone, could be a bully. So we're going to go through these 4 scenarios, these 4 types of conflicts, and provide more information as to how each of them may impact your day. And so one of the things you're going to notice is that depending on the size of the organization you work for, you may end up being more than just the supervisor or the manager. In smaller organizations, you are the HR department, meaning you are going to be doing everything. You're complaint central, and hopefully you're going to be the resolution center at the same time. You don't want to be receiving complaints all day and not being able to do anything about them. So hopefully you're going to be able to receive the complaint and do something about the situation that is causing these issues. So the conflict of work and family. Some things to consider. Let's say whether a person is single versus married. Now, I don't want you to think about that we're going to be the person dealing with all these problems, but we have to be aware of them, and we have to be in touch with the employees to know what is going on. So, for example, let's say that whether the employee is having marital problems or not. Now, you are not a counselor, and you're definitely not going to, or you shouldn't, deal with become a counselor and trying to help out your employees. You could listen to them, but in your position, the best thing that you could do is to refer them to a specialist in marital counseling. Now, how do you know that there are issues? Well, either the employee says it, you hear it to the grapevine, or you approach the employee. That's the best part. If there are issues, if there are conflicts that you're noticing that were not there before, you approach the employee and you ask them, is there anything different? Is there something that I could do with you? Do for you? You're going to notice that this is going to be one of those repeating themes. Asking and listening. Simple as that. You ask a question. If you see that there is an issue, a problem, a conflict, hopefully the employee is going to feel safe enough to be able to give you that information. Now, if the employee doesn't feel like telling you anything because it's not your problem, you step back. You don't want to push. Now, you do tell the employee how whatever they're doing is affecting the company, the organization. But if they don't want to provide you the information, that's fine. You still give them the referral information for whatever you think may help them. And that's it. If the problem continues, well, there are other steps. And that's coming later on. So, for example, if someone has kids, now, if an employee is a new parent, you already know what the problem is going to be if they're having conflicts. Maybe they're running in a little late, they are tired, they're sleeping in the morning, they are a little jumpy. Okay, so for that, if your employer has a place for the child to be while the parent is at work, that's fantastic. If that's not the case, well, there are arrangements that could be made. So Is there any accommodation, if possible at all, that can be done so that the parents, the conflict that they are currently facing could be lessened? Is there maybe a different time shift? I mean, coming a little later, getting a little sooner, earlier than normal? What can you do as an employer, as a supervisor, manager, that could help them? Now you have to keep in mind that other employees are going to see them, and they are going to potentially perceive that to be that you are favoring one person over another. Now, I may have mentioned it earlier, but if just in case I haven't, perception is the reality of the person that perceives it that way. So if my perception is that you are helping another person more than you're helping me, for whatever reason, that's my reality. That could be a real thing, that's the reason why I might be helping another person over that. That may not be the case. But if they perceive it that way and you don't do anything in order to change those perceptions, that's going to be the reality. So just communicate with the employees and just let them know what's going on. Now, they don't have to know, oh, because they're having marital issues, we're going to do this. That's just between you and the employee that had the situation. But you could tell the other employees that there's a shift of the schedule or whatever you may be doing. So anyway, don't get too messy with the other employees as to what happened to another employee when you made an exception. So just keep it simple, but just be consistent with how you handle this situation, just in case another employee in the future has the same problem and they come back and say, but when so-and-so had this problem, you did this and now you don't want to do it for me. So to avoid those situations, make sure you are consistent. Now, if a person is a caretaker, it's pretty much the same as having a kid. If you may be having the same issues, I don't have enough time to be at work, I have to take care of someone else, running around, not concentrating on work, making mistakes. The idea here is we cannot accommodate everyone, so that cannot happen. I mean, if you accommodate everyone, maybe the work doesn't get done. But the point is, if you have the possibility to accommodate them without impacting the work, by all means. If the employee was good, with no issues before, even if they had issues before, but they were doing the work, their life circumstances change. But you do have the ability to make that change, that accommodation, please. If you can, do it. If you can, you let them know as well. Hey, you know what? I would love to help you. I can't. You have to be here at 9 in the morning. Otherwise, you might have to get something else. Those are tough decisions. Now make sure, because there are other issues that come with that, make sure that you try. You don't want a legal issue later on because you're discriminating over a person that is a pregnant woman or a caretaker. So just make sure that you follow all the steps, you are consistent, and you avoid legal issues in the future. So that's one of them. Consistency in all these things is going to be key. So let's say a person is always being on time, has no issues. All of a sudden, they have not been able to be on time for a week. What's the issue? First, you have to talk to them. What's the problem? Oh, my car broke down. I don't have a car. Okay. Is that going to be a long-term issue? Is there something that we could do? Again, accommodations if possible. If it's not possible, some employers, you will have to ask your supervisor, your managers and their managers, and you could talk to the company itself. Some organizations do provide assistance, monetary assistance. They'll deduct it from your paycheck little by little, but they may be able to help you. Now, some employees may not know that information, so you may have to tell them, hey, you know what, just in case you're short in cash, you might be able to do this arrangement, talk to HR, and they may be able to do it for you. Now, if you're the HR person, because your company is a small one, and you know they don't offer that, well, don't even bring it up. But provide them ideas. Give them ideas. Let them know how them being late or whatever they're doing is affecting the organization, so they are aware of what's going on. Now, sometimes the problems or the conflicts are with other co-workers. It's between them. It has nothing to do with work sometimes. It's just between them. Their personalities, the way they do work, it's just between them. It's just different. One of the things that you need to consider is the generation gap. So consider the amount of time that we spend at work. And you're going to realize that, and no wonder there are issues sometimes. Just like in families, you have problems. At the end of the day, the people that you work with, your co-workers, they're sort of an extended family. You spend a lot of time with them. So just imagine the generation gap. So for example, in order to do this presentation, to get everything ready, I was doing some research, and there are veterans that are considered individuals that were born before 1945, which are still supervisors, and you see them all the time. They're a little older, and they're the supervisors, they're the managers. And then you have these teenagers, these people that came out of high school, or Generation Y, which is from 1980 to 1999. Some of them are already young adults, some of them are teenagers. So you have an older person from a different generation, which is going to be your manager, based on the stereotypes, if you want to put it that way, and based on the history. The manager loves the company. Everything is the company first, and you as the employee, you just need to know, and you want to know how you are doing. You don't care so much about the company, but more about you. Well, there's definitely going to be conflict. The manager cares about the company more than he cares about anything else, and you only care about yourself to an extent. Everything has its exceptions, but it's going to be two different things. One is pulling one way, the other one is pulling another one. You may want to know all the time how you're doing, while the other person is always talking about how the company is doing and never talks to you about how you are doing. So that's definitely going to be a conflict. So if you are that manager, the one that is not giving feedback, you have to realize who your employees are, how they react to different things. Keep in mind that your way of thinking is not the only one that is out there. The close-minded, it doesn't work. People say, think outside the box. Yeah, sometimes for these things, it does work. So, for example, another issue that happens, diverse employers. There are employers that have a good diversity. All the employees are from all over the place. That's very good. If you have everyone from the same place, you have a different issue, you have a different problem. Not so much because of the diversity, because everyone is the same. So everyone tends to think the same. Everything gets done the same way. Diversity is not there. If there is a significant number from different countries, let's just choose Hispanics, just the Miami area. There are people from Latin America, Central America, and the Caribbean. They're all different. Even though they're Hispanic, they all act and talk and they do things different. Then when you put all those individuals together with anyone from the Caribbean that may not be Hispanic, but they're from the Caribbean, they're a different personality as well. And then you put in the Americans, the Anglo-Saxons, then you have a mixture that if you don't know how to handle that, you're going to be getting people upset all the time. Maybe not on purpose, but what you said for one person that was funny for this person, for that other person, it was not funny. In fact, they got very upset. So you have to be very careful of the background of the people that you work with. Keep that in mind when you're doing the teams, when you're doing anything really, to keep it in the forefront. Another thing that happens all the time is that you may have different goals. So some workers may not aspire to do anything else. They are fine in the position they are. Before I worked at where I'm currently, I worked in fast food as a manager for some time. It didn't last long. Fortunately, let me rephrase. I fortunately changed and just moved on to something different. There are people that are in fast food. That's what they want to do. They're comfortable. For better or worse, they believe they cannot do anything else. So they're making ends meet. Barely, but they're doing it. So those people, they don't really care about potential positions, increases. I mean, increases, yes, but not more responsibility. They just want to do their own little thing, get out, go home and do their thing. Now there are other people in that same position that they're just waiting for the day that they can move on and do something different. You have to know who those people are. So if right now employee A has been in that position for 20 years, has no aspirations, they don't want to do anything else, they just want to stay there, then maybe, hey, you know what, if they're doing the good job that they are, just keep them as they are. Now person B has been there for 6 months and they're already counting the days so they can move to a different position. Well, find out if they have the potential to do it. Spend more time on that person. Don't ignore the other one, because that's the one that is carrying the business. But definitely think of the newer person, or the person that at least is willing and wanting to move on. As a continuation, it will be one of the conflicts is the employee-employer conflict. What do I mean with the employee-employer? Well, that same employee that doesn't want to move on. Okay, fine. They don't want to move on and the other one wants to move on. Have you taken the time, as you are the supervisor, as the manager, have you taken the time to truly know what is that they want to do? Do the employee knows that employer that you know what they want to do? On the other hand, does the employee know what is expected of them? Some employees are doing the work, but they know they have to be there. They may not exactly know what is fully expected of them. So you have to ask them. Their responsibilities. They know that they have to deliver a product, but they have to deliver it in a specific manner that is going to increase the likelihood that it's going to be a repeat customer once the product is delivered. Let's say that you're a painter. I know you have to paint the house. Is there a specific method that I should be using to do it a little quicker, to be more efficient? What about if you're a teacher, professor? Is there a specific technique that I should be using to ensure that the lessons are understood and they are actually stick to the students? So that's a responsibility part. That's your responsibility to make sure that they know what is expected. Now, what is the plan? Do you have a plan for that employee for success, for failure, or for stagnation? What I mean, every person should have like a little file, employee file, all their stuff. They're supposed to have annually or every 6 months a conversation with the employee. You go over the goals, whatever they want to do, how they did, how could they improve. And then at that point, you guys create a plan as to how you're going to improve, move on to the next level. So have you created one of those plans for your employees? Or do you create one that is meant for the person to want to quit? There are people who do that. You do everything possible to have the person leave the company before you fire them. There's no point. That will be a disengaged employee, which is going to be worse for the organization than not to have it in the first place. So even though that's a slightly different conversation, that's part of the conflict. You're doing one thing, the employee is doing completely the opposite thing, sometimes on purpose, sometimes on not. But that's not something that you want to do with them. So, disengaged workers are very expensive. So you don't want disengaged employees. So do you have a plan for them to succeed, to fail, or to stay pretty much in the same position because you don't even care about what they're doing as long as they show up and do the work? So keep that in mind when you're doing these things. Now, another of the areas that unfortunately is not being addressed all the time, even though there may be policies in place, no one wants to deal with it, is bullying. Bullying can come from anyone. It could be another coworker, it could be management, it could even be clients. How does it break down? How does that work? So when we were kids, when any of us were kids, things happen and whatever, oh, that's a mean kid, whatever. And as you grow up, some of those people, you will hear another adult say, oh, kids could be mean. Even you may have said at some point, kids are mean. Well, another word for mean in the way that was being said is those kids are bullied. They're bullying other kids. Well, eventually, those people become grown-ups, and some of them become managers. Even the ones that were not bullies may have become bullies without even noticing. So a coworker, let me give you an example of a coworker that may be a bully. You guys are assigned by your supervisor a work. You have to do a report. Now, you as a supervisor told the employees, I need you guys to do this, to split the work, to do it, you assign it. But one of those two employees, or two or three, or a team, whatever it was, decides that they don't feel like doing much of the work because it was a team effort. They expect the other team members to do the work. Now, it might be that they have some sway on the other person, and they decide not to do the work, and the other team members decide for the better of the group to do the work. Over time, that person is going to get used to them, and then they're bullying other people for doing the work. Now that would be sort of common. A bad one will be if there's physical intimidation or physical abuse or any of that sort, then that's a different problem. And with management, that tends to happen. Now, that's why companies have policies for bullying for everything in this regards. If you're a smaller company and you don't have one, think of creating one, because you need to keep your employees safe, keep yourself safe, and keep the organization from being in legal issues, legal problems in the future. So, for management, unfortunately, what happens is with management is that sometimes managers abuse their power. Now they abuse it because as simple as I need this work done and you cannot go, and something like that, something that looks not too problematic, to the more serious cases, which will be sexual abuse. If you do this for me, I'll give you this promotion, or I'll give you this pay raise. And that's a part that is bullying. Or if you don't do it, I'll fire you. You definitely do not want to be there. You don't want to be close to any of them. If you know that something like that is happening, you have to report it. You don't want to be an accomplice to some issues like that. So if you hear or you know of any of these things happening, you have to report it. There's really no two ways about that part. So let's say that you managed to ask all the right questions. You asked all the right questions, you got the answers that you believe are the correct answers to the questions that you were asking. So does that mean that everything is fixed? Everything has been resolved? Or what? Or let's put it another way. Did your asking questions trigger whatever situation you were addressing to go on the ground? Meaning that now the employees have figured out the way to avoid you getting involved in the situation that you were trying to avoid, in the conflict that you were trying to avoid in the first place, by now carrying this conflict on the ground, creating more problems. Was the conflict truly resolved? Did it go on the ground? Did you actually make any progress towards fixing the issue? Or like I put on the slide, or are you digressing? Are you going opposite to what you wanted to do? The last thing that you want to do is, oh great, we fixed this problem, the problem is not existing anymore. 6 months later, you find out that not only is the problem there, it's actually worse now. It happens. But it happens especially when managers, supervisors, they don't follow up. They assume that everything got done properly and that there are no more issues. That's not how that works. So remember, conflicts are going to be, there are many types of conflicts. Most conflicts can be dealt with in one way or another. Most of them by communication, just asking the right question, observing more than anything. So one of the ways that I remember in banking that we used to be trained, they will put you to the side, the managers that were training you, especially if you were thinking of going into management, they'll put you to the side and you will both go together to like a corner of the branch, to like a little corner. And they will say, okay, let's stand right here. We're not going to talk or do anything. We're not going to interact with anyone. And we're just going to observe what we see. Let's observe the team, the rest of the employees. And 10 minutes later, let's have a conversation to see what you saw, what I saw, and let's do this. Now, scenarios like that, those 10 minutes, they last forever. It's you and your manager either sitting or standing in the corner of the branch, and that happens to be the case for all other places because I have done the same with other managers in other locations. Try yourself. Get an employee that you're training or a supervisor that train you. Stand on the corner of wherever place you work and just observe your employees doing the work. What are you going to notice? You're going to see the mouse, you're going to see the monster, and you're going to see what you want employees to be, the me. So you're going to see that employee rolling their eyes when the client says something or another employee says something. You're going to also see that same employee ignoring something that they were asked to do. You're going to see a potential employee when they got tired of ignoring, blowing up and yelling and threatening someone else. And you're also going to see that one that keeps apologizing for everything that they didn't do. Oh, I'm sorry that this happened to you. Apologies are good, but that doesn't always fix a problem. Listening and observing. Once you finish that observation, 5-10 minutes, whatever time you spend, you're going to have a pretty good idea of where the conflicts are. That person that keeps rolling their eyes, approach them. Talk to them. Figure out what the issue with that specific person was that made him or her roll their eyes. Why did they ignore whatever was being told to them? You cannot assume that all these things have what I want to believe to be a logical reason. Some people don't care. So people that do not care, that will be some of the people that are disengaged at work. If they're disengaged at work, they're very costly. Now, one of the things that came up on the Gallup poll is that there is at least a third of the employees that are disengaged. There are a number of them that are actively disengaged. Now, to have actively disengaged people, employees, those are employees that are purposely doing whatever they can to not do the work. And in occasions, they may actually be sabotaging the work. What do you mean by sabotaging the work? Let's say let's use the example of a restaurant. So someone takes the order. That will be someone takes the order. They give it to the cook. Someone cooks it. They cook it. Someone takes it back to the client. That will be the scenario. Someone that is actively disengaged. If it happens to be the person that brings the food back, maybe by mistake or sort of a mistake, drop a plate, take their time to take the food over. The food might be cold by the time they get there. If it happens to be the cook, all the food is going to be tasting bad. If it's the order taker, they might take the wrong order. On purpose, of course. All this is to get people upset and to get more people in their case. So you have to realize who these people are in order to address the situations before they happen. Now, again, like I previously said, all this does happen in a vacuum. It just didn't happen overnight. I woke up and I don't want to help anymore and I'm tired of this. Little by little, things happen. So you have to keep communicating with employees and to see the conflicts. Now, some of the conflicts that you're going to see at work, going back to one of the prior ones, the co-worker ones, are going to be, oh, I don't like that person. Yeah, great, fantastic. They don't like each other and they work next to each other. Do you have the possibility in one of those accommodations? If you have already tried to face the situation, it doesn't work, for whatever reason, is there a possibility that you may transfer one of them out? Now, one of the things is you're not transferring a problem out. You shouldn't look at it that way. You are getting two people that are not getting along, and you have attempted to diffuse the situation and it hasn't worked. So instead of maybe letting one of them go, you diffuse the situation, if possible, by transferring that individual to another place. Now, in my short stay at a fast food place as the manager, a lot of things happened in that very short stay. Learned quite a bit. And one of the things that happened there, two employees literally began to fight behind the line in front of other clients, other customers. Now, that is completely unacceptable, to actually fight for any reason. That shouldn't happen in the first place, especially not at work, not in front of customers. That shouldn't happen. So when we separated the employees, I talked to one first. What happened, what the situation is, what happened. They gave me a story. Went over, talked to the second person, gave me similar but slightly different story. Happened to talk to another employee that was not involved, but didn't know what was going on. That person gave me a slightly different answer. But when you put all the three together, you could create a picture. The problem didn't begin there, at that moment when they were fighting. The problem had begun 2 days ago. They happened to go to school together. The problem technically began on a parking lot, unrelated to school or work. It was in regards to someone else. It got a little worse at work because they worked together. Apparently escalated a little more at school. And by the time they had gotten back to work that day, it blew up. Now, that type of problem, it wouldn't be something that you would have noticed right off the bat because it was outside. But you could see, if you had enough time to observe your employees, you could tell when their personality had changed or their approach to doing the work had changed. Now, asking questions is very simple. When was the last time that you as a supervisor or manager went up to one of the employees and said, "Hey, how you doing? How's life? How's life?" Never been asked that before by anyone. I have the tendency of when I go to work, I talk to people. "Hey, how was your weekend?" And not just as a general question, "How was your day?" Hey, I don't mind engaging in a small conversation. Now, don't give me your life story, because that's not the idea. Or don't give someone else your life story. But the point is, how are you doing? Just a small talk to figure it out. Things like that happen all the time. They will come to you. If an employee feels safe, again, the key thing here is that they feel safe and that you care. If an employee feels that you care as a supervisor or a manager, they will come to you. So forget about the grapevine. You become the roots. They'll come to you and they talk to you. At the beginning, you're going to realize that for conflict management or conflict resolution, whatever you want to call it, the most important thing is to have someone that they trust and that is going to be fair, consistent. So if you happen to be one of those managers that today green is good and tomorrow green is horrible, an employee is not going to feel as comfortable as coming to you to tell you, "Hey, I have a problem." Surveys have shown that employees feel more comfortable approaching individuals or managers that they can trust. Be a trusting individual. At least let your employees know that they could come to you. Simple way of doing that. You have probably seen it a bunch of times or heard it from. I have an open door policy. If you're a manager and you're always closing your door, just the fact that you're closing the door, that's an impediment for your employees to approach you and ask you questions or tell you that something is not working. If you have your door open, even if there are no problems, they're more likely just to pass by and say, hey, how are you doing? But if you have it closed, that's not going to happen. So keep the communication going and let them talk to you. That is going to be a helpful way for conflict. Once the conflict already happened, it happens. So you just have to deal with it. Now, so like I was saying on the prior slides, when they say we're talking about how to approach and how to deal with it. Once you are there on the conflict, you have to talk. You have to deal with it. Don't ignore it at that point, because ignoring it. Let me put it another way. If you are already confronting the issue, and you say, "Oh, that's not a big deal. Don't do it again," that's not addressing the situation. You have to find the root cause of the problem. You have to identify what was the real issue behind the conflict. You have to talk about the conflict. Some people call it root cause analysis. There's a breakdown. There's a problem. You have to get to the root cause of the problem. You don't want to deal with the symptoms. You want to deal with the problem itself. The symptoms are going to be, oh, this is common. These are the issues. This is the disease. You want to deal with the problems, with the disease or whatever is happening, not with the surrounding problems. Once you fix one, then the other one goes away. So communication is going to be key for this part. As we're coming to the end of this second session, I just want to give a brief summary of what we have covered so far in this session. So pretty much it's conflict resolution. Now, if there is a problem, if a conflict comes up, the best thing that you could do is to listen and to find out the source of the problem. Don't try to cover it up. Don't try to just fix it for today and worry about it tomorrow, which it happens. Tomorrow is going to come up again. And then you are going to do the same thing until you decide one day to actually face the problem, deal with it, and hopefully resolve it. Now, so since we are covering the conflict resolution, we spoke about the mouse and monster and me. Now, at the beginning, there were a good amount of people that were under the mouse and monster, a little less on the me, but there was a pretty even number among the three. The goal of these sessions, not just this one, but the whole sessions, is to have all of you guys move from the mouse and the monster to me. Now, we don't want to go from mouse to monster, because then that would be considerably worse. You're going to go from a person that was ignoring everything to now blowing up for everything. Now, that would be night and day. And then that's going to be another issue at work. So you want to transition whichever way you are. And if you are always on the me side, sometimes you might have to bump a little bit. Not to the monster, because that would be too much. But you cannot be too nice as well, because otherwise things may not get done. So you have to have a nice balance. Less monster and less me. Less monster and less mouse and more me. That's going to help you to make sure the employees trust you, because that's another thing that we have talked about here, trust. So the objective was to be able to recognize conflict. I'm pretty sure that by now you will get a pretty good idea when a problem is approached. So I think we covered that very well there. How to approach the conflict, we spoke that as well. We covered that as well. You want to be able to approach it in such a way that it's not going to make it worse than it already is. So you have to talk and you have to listen. Listen for the things that they don't say as much as for the things that they do say. Some things that are not said are the most powerful ones. So, and watch the body language. That says a lot about the problem. We cover the type of conflicts: the work family, the co-workers, the employee and the employer, the bullying. you have to be respectful of all the problems that someone may have. You also have to let your employees know how much you value them, how much their input affects the company's bottom line. Sometimes we take for granted the fact that they're working for you. It's granted they're going to make money and they're there for a salary, but sometimes we don't say thank you enough to employees for doing the work. So saying thank you more often does help to build a relationship so they could approach you in the future if they have any issues. Now, like I mentioned a couple times, for the Gallup poll, you do not want to have disengaged workers. Disengaged workers are very expensive, especially those that are actively disengaged. An actively disengaged worker is going to be one that is purposely going to be trying to make life living hell at work. You don't want those people. You have to realize those individuals who they are, and you have to plan how to either turn them around or have them be out. That's something that is going to be covered on the next session number 3. So that's something that we're going to be very detailed. I'll give you an explanation as to how that's going to work on the next session. So one of the things that this could be summarized very simply. There is a conflict. You have to be proactive. You have to listen. You have to ask the right questions. You have to address the situation, and you have to follow up with it. So if you were not able to proactively avoid the situation, then you have to find out what the issue was. You have to ask the questions and listen for the responses for the problem. You have to address the situation that is identified as a problem, hopefully correct it, and then you have to follow up. That's how, in a nutshell, problem resolution is. So I hope this session has helped you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me any questions. I'm going to try to answer as many questions as you can. And remember, the conflict is neither good or nor bad. That's a cry for help or for someone to notice that there's something wrong. So the more conflict you get, the more opportunities you have to make something better. Now again, if it happens all the time that you have a conflict one after another, like I said on the previous session, if you are putting off fires every day, or in this case, if you are dealing with conflicts every day, there's a bigger problem. At this point, you have to identify what the issue is. Now again, if it's you, you're not going to tell yourself, oh, I'm the problem, I'm going to get it. It might be a little more difficult for you to admit that you are the one causing the problem. But if you are the one causing the problem and you haven't realized what it is that you're doing, learn quickly. Figure it out and make it stop so that you don't have more issues and the productivity of the business doesn't get affected due to something that you may or may not be doing purposely and it's affecting the bottom line. So again, I want to thank you for taking the time to be in the session. We're going to take a quick break. It's not going to be as long as the previous one. Just take your time, and when we come back, we're going to be doing session number 3. If by any chance you're one of the ones that is watching this on a replay and you haven't watched session 1, you should, because these 3 sessions are linked together, and it will make more sense and it will be more helpful to watch the 3 sessions. Thank you.